This is a community-supported legal education channel. Find out how you can support our mission at the links in the description below. Hello again, I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney. Tax season is upon us, and I thought we'd bust out a vintage case that caused some real cleavage among tax lawyers and the IRS. Hess versus IRS, also known as the Chesty Love case, is about what happens when the IRS accuses you of inflating your business expenses when your job is to shake a little bit more than what your mama gave you. We've got our hands full with this topic, so I'm going to call in some extra support. Please welcome our channel researcher and my professional assistant, Tactical Bra, who is, shall we say, well equipped to discuss this case.
Thank you. I'm eager to reveal the details, so let's dive in. So we are in the United States Tax Court in 1994. This is Reginald R. Hess and Cynthia S. Hess v. the IRS. So they are the petitioners and the IRS is the respondent.
And we're in U.S. Tax Court, which is a special court that is just for adjudicating tax disputes with the federal government.
Exactly. So in this decision by Joan Seats Pate, we have, pursuant to the determination of the court as set forth in its TC summary opinion filed March 30th, it is ordered and decided that there are no deficiencies in petitioner's income tax for 1988. So you have petitioners, the Hesses, their 1988 tax return is A-OK.
Okay.
So respondent being the IRS, determined a deficiency in the Hess's 1988 federal income tax of $699. The sole issue for our decision is whether Cynthia Hess, hereinafter petitioner, may depreciate the cost of silicone chest implants, hereinafter implants, in connection with her business as a professional dancer. So for those that aren't aware in tax court, what does it mean to depreciate the cost of something on your taxes?
Sure, it's actually more part of accounting or economics. It's the normal wear and tear on a valuable item that makes it less valuable over time. The biggest one most people can relate to is buying a car. If you bought a brand new car for $50,000, you can expect that the moment you drive that car off the lot, you could no longer sell that car for $50,000. You would not only have expenses in the sale of the car, but you would also literally have less value that people would see in the car because someone else had already owned it. So it's already a used car, at least a little bit. And so you might see as big as a 5 or even 10%, maybe even 20% drop in value of that car just because you bought it. Now, this doesn't work the same with all assets. It's usually property that wears out and either can't be maintained or isn't traditionally maintained. Houses, for example, a little bit different on the depreciation. Houses don't depreciate to zero. They're generally maintained, so they might actually appreciate, which is when they increase in value if they're properly maintained. So here we're talking about when you can or cannot take a tax deduction for that recognized amount of depreciation. You don't get to just make up the depreciation outright. There are some accounting rules and some IRS rules about how and when you can depreciate certain items.
At its core, she's claiming her implants as a business expense that gets, I guess, less valuable over time. Petitioner, so that's Hess, has worked as a self-employed professional dancer and entertainer since 1986. She obtained contracts to perform at various nightclubs through a theatrical booking agency, and her fee was based on the number of nights she had to perform. So in 1986 and 87, Hess used the stage name Tonda Marie, and at that time, she grossed from $416 to $750 per week. I did a little bit of calculation, and in today's dollars, that would be about $900 to $1,750 a week.
Okay.
So, that's about $65,000 a year.
Yeah, not terrible.
Yeah. In the summer of 1986, she underwent her first implant operation, which augmented the size of her chest a small amount. The urging of her agent in 1988, Hess underwent multiple medical procedures to replace and to substantially enlarge her implants, and which finally expanded her bust size to an abnormally large 56 double F.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah. So for those that don't know how bra sizes work, there are two measurements. And the first is going to be your band size. So that's your measurement around your rib cage underneath. And then you have, so basically the circumference of that. And then you take the circumference around the largest part of your chest. And the difference in inches is going to be represented by those letters. So the more well endowed you are, the further along in the alphabet those letters are going to be. So by the time we get to double F, you're looking at about antelope size, I guess.
Yeah, it says here they weighed approximately 10 pounds each. Not 10 pounds
Yes.
total, 10 pounds each, which is somewhere around 8 kilograms total, or 4 kilograms each.
Yeah. So you're carrying
Wow.
around two small children there, like on your chest.
Yeah. And
Um,
and just not having a lot of personal experience with this, but knowing one or two women in my life, that's painful. Like that can cause back problems. That can cause just general pain from having to carry around that much weight. I know people who have had them surgically reduced simply because of the side effects of having
yeah.
large tracts of
Your
land.
your shirts would have to be custom made because they don't make shirts or dresses to accommodate that. Your bras certainly would have to be custom made. So you could be looking at $500 to $600 for a bra um, in order to
Wow.
accommodate that. So during 1988, she was reintroduced into the market under the stage name of Chesty Love. And at that time, her fees almost doubled. So now you're looking closer to 130,000 per year that she was able to earn.
Wow.
So it's a sacrifice, but it is paying off.
I
In
mean,
December,
and to be fair, like men do their own version of this. We definitely see actors in Hollywood, even Keanu Reeves, our beloved, breathtaking Keanu Reeves, works really, really hard to keep himself in top physical shape so that he looks good on screen. And we even have reports of Brad Pitt or others who have dehydrated themselves to give them that cut look.
oh yeah, that's a whole other story. But yeah, before topless scenes, men are often asked to dehydrate for a couple of days in order to get the definition of the six packs. Um,
Yowza.
yeah. In December of 1988, because of the added weight and imbalance created by the implants, Hess slipped and fell on ice, rupturing one of her implants. And this is a really big deal. So if
Ouch.
you have 10 pounds of liquid silicone jelly, like to have that free in your body is not a good thing. That is a medical emergency. You don't
Mm.
want that getting near your heart. You don't want that getting near your lungs. You could die. So definitely oral muscles at all. So you can't lift your arms. You can't lift anything heavy. So you certainly can't be working with a pole. Like you're being told to be not active
So
during
she's
that time.
restricted from working because of this,
Absolutely.
because of the rupture and then the new implants she has to receive.
Yes. So in 1991, Petitioner received custom made implants in an even larger size, 56N. So if you thought double F was big, we are going way the heck down the alphabet to the
Yeah.
second half of
Holy
the
mackerel.
alphabet.
I don't even know what that means. Maybe we can put a chart up on the screen because, at some point YouTube is going to catch on to what we're doing here and demonetize the heck out of this, no matter how popular the video is.
Yeah, so I actually tried to find some charts, and the charts don't go up to those letters.
Wow.
So, due to the enormous size, she was featured on several television and radio talk shows, namely Sally Jesse Raphael, Howard Stern, and Tokyo Nippon. Now, to be completely honest, when I was a kid and staying home sick from school, this was before widespread internet use in the homes. This is before high speed internet and Netflix and all of that. So we had to watch daytime talk
Yeah, that's
shows.
all you had. That's really all you had. Play with your Legos, play some video games on the Nintendo Entertainment System, or maybe Super NES was out by then. I'm not sure. That might have been 92 or so. But yeah, there wasn't a lot to do. Although it was still a lot better than what previous generations may have had.
So I actually watched the episode where Chesty Love was on Sally Jesse Raphael.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
actually legitimately remember because at one point, Sally Jesse Raphael asked her if she was going to get them smaller. And she said, no, they're going to get bigger before they
Hmm.
get smaller.
Oh
And I
wow.
was so shocked by that, that it
Yeah.
is still embedded in my brain as an adult.
Wow. So in more ways than one, this story is, shall we say, near and dear to your heart.
Yes. So the Tokyo Nippon television show presents an annual program which features freak-sized people from all over the world. So Hess was chosen to have the largest, freakiest chest, and they were measured on television.
Wow.
So in about a 20-week period, so 20 weeks being, less than half of the year, she earned $70,000, and in today's buying power, that's more than 130,000.
Wow. Also, wow on inflation. That's, I mean, like, oh man, I didn't even realize I made that pun. Um, but like, it's $70,000 in 1991, 30 years later is 130,000 is crazy. Absolutely crazy
Yeah.
that that's how much money becomes, shall we say, deflated.
Yeah. So, as a result of her implants, Hess suffered from serious medical problems. And in 1992, she was forced to return home after only 3 weeks of being out on the road because her body rejected the implants due to another bacterial infection. Again, the implants were surgically removed. And at the time of trial, petitioner anticipated returning to work during 1993 after additional surgery and a new type of implant. And
Wow.
this is something where medicine is advancing quite a bit, that newer
Yeah.
implants, they last longer. We've moved a lot more towards saline versus silicone because it causes less problems if there is a rupture. So technology has advanced. In addition to medical problems, petitioner and her husband were subjected to considerable humiliation because of the size of her chest. Petitioner was ridiculed by people on the street. Her husband suffered off-color comments and insults, and she was ostracized by most of her family. And this kind of makes me sad. Like, she's still a
Yeah.
human.
Especially, I mean, I don't want to like call any particular region or anyone out, but it is well known in at least parts of the legal community that the people who call you out and humiliate you about these things are often the very same people who are searching for that on the internet when they are in the privacy of their own home
Mm-hmm.
and not in public. So it's really interesting to me to see that sometimes the places where the most strange or most quantity of Google searches for these kinds of things, then people also ostracize and humiliate people for the exact same things. So I mean, maybe this might be a time to say, can't we all just get along?
Yeah. It's kind of sad that at the time when she's experiencing a lot of professional success, at least in terms of income, and that she's gaining a lot of notoriety, she's building her brand.
Yeah.
When she's
In a
not
legal
being,
way, in a perfectly legal job, and she's paying her taxes.
Mhm.
She's literally here paying her taxes. The judge said already that there's nothing else wrong with her taxes, just this one thing was in dispute.
Yeah. So it's kind of sad that when she's not on stage, that she's getting all of this harassment and stuff. So as much as her brand is is skyrocketing, her personal life is not. And that's sad to me. So consequently, when her career as a professional dancer is over, Hess plans to have the implants permanently removed. So on Schedule C of her 1988 income tax, she had $2,088 of depreciation from the implants. So During her first notice of deficiency, I guess, when the IRS says, we don't like this return, the IRS said, don't list it as a depreciation, just write off the entire medical expense.
And for anyone who does or doesn't know, your medical expenses don't start coming off of your taxable income until you reach a certain amount. I'm not sure if that was the case in 1988 because I was 8 years old and wasn't doing my own taxes at the time. My mom did my income taxes for 1998 and all the money that I earned as an 8-year-old. I'm kidding. I didn't earn any money as an 8-year-old, maybe my allowance, but I think that counts as a gift.
So when Hess resubmitted her tax forms, again, she got a notice of deficiency that disallowed the cost of the procedure. So Hess views the implants as necessary stage props that have demonstrably increased her earnings. She contends that she is entitled to depreciate them because they are assets used in her trade or business, and she derives no personal benefit from them. Respondent being the IRS, maintains that the cost of the implants and resultant medical care are personal expenditures and therefore are only deductible as medical expenses. So in general, a taxpayer can deduct all of the ordinary and necessary expenses during the taxable year in carrying on a trade or business.
That's section 162, by the way. We're going to need to follow these sections as they refer to them.
So further, section 167 allows as a depreciation deduction a reasonable allowance for the wear and tear of property, but only if such property is used in a business or other income-producing activity. On the other hand, no deduction is allowed for personal, living, or family expenses according to section 262. Moreover, when section 162 and 262 are in conflict, section 262 has been held to take precedence over 162.
Good to know. That's a good rule for everybody to know.
So in evaluating whether certain expenses are personal or qualify as business expenses under 162, the courts generally have found that some expenses are so inherently personal that they almost invariably come within the ambit of section 262. So even if they have a benefit for your business, they're still personal. Therefore, costs paid by a taxpayer in enhancing one's health or personal appearance, even though such costs were paid for business reasons, have been held not to be deductible as business expenses under section 162. So the judge is going to go on and give a bunch of examples, and the reasoning in all these cases emphasized that the benefits from the expenditure were enjoyed by the taxpayer both in business and personal activities. The IRS maintains that Hess's implant surgery is inherently personal under section 262, and that therefore its cost is not depreciable. Unfortunately, neither section 262 or the regulations thereunder contain a definition of personal. So we actually have to go all the way back to a 1924 decision, Sullivan v. Commissioner, for the Board of Tax Appeals, and they drew the distinction between business expenses and personal expenses, saying that the deduction authorized plainly contemplates necessary items of expense in conducting business, that is, growing out of and incurred solely in the furtherance of the business engaged in. Business expenses are those incurred in producing or in the expectation of producing revenues to the business, as distinguished from expenses incurred for the convenience, comfort, or economy of the individual in pursuing his business. They are the expenses necessarily incurred in the performance of his business duties and not those incurred by the individual for his personal comfort or convenience. Here, Hess has shown that her surgery was incurred solely in the furtherance of the business engaged in and incurred in producing revenues to the business. The sole reason she enlarged her chest to such a horrendous size was to increase her success and concomitantly her income as a professional dancer. In this endeavor, petitioner has succeeded, inasmuch as her fees have increased substantially since her surgery. Although I'm starting to notice the judge using adjectives, and judges don't use a lot of adjectives. So just pay attention to some of these
increase her success, yeah.
Moreover, these costs were not incurred for the convenience, comfort, or economy of the individual in pursuing her business. The implants under consideration are not those usual implants that women seek to enhance their personal appearance. Rather, Hess, in pursuit of additional income, has inserted implants that augmented her chest to such an extent that they made her appear freakish.
Yeah.
They were so large that they ruined her personal appearance, her health, and imposed severe stress on her personal and family relationships. Oof.
Yeah.
It's
So
it's
this was
kind of hard.
definitely done for entertainment purposes and not for the personal attractiveness or personal satisfaction.
I know if I was her and I was reading this, I'd be like, well, thank you for ruling in my favor, but also could you not say they ruined my appearance?
I mean, it might have been an argument that she made. I don't know where the
Oh,
judge is
true.
citing freakish from, but it's in quotes, and judges usually don't do that unless it comes from somewhere. So that might have actually been her argument or her attorney's argument that she was a circus performer of kinds, as a entertainer.
Interesting. She's actually appearing pro se.
Oh, okay.
And
It might have
the
even been her language pro se then, I guess.
Yeah, they might be referring to the Tokyo Nippon thing where they had the
Could be.
once a year freak show episode.
Yeah.
So the cases detailed above are distinguishable. In all of these cases, the courts found that the medical procedures, such as a tonsillectomy, dentures, hearing aid, the general health expenditures, such as counseling fees and exercise equipment, and the grooming expenditures, such as haircuts, were expenses ordinarily expended by individuals in furtherance of good health and maintaining an attractive appearance, and thus were inherently personal. In contrast, petitioner's expenditures were detrimental to her health and contorted her body into a grotesque appearance.
Grotesque. How'd you like it if the judge called you grotesque? I don't think that was her
Again,
word. I really don't think that was going to be one of her words.
it's like, again, thanks for ruling in my favor, but ouch. Hess's expenditures for implants can be analogized to clothing expenditures, which, as a general rule, are not deductible as a business expense, even when specific types of clothing are a necessary condition of the business or employment. So I'm guessing that would be like lawyers buying suits probably
You can't write
deduct
off
that.
your lawyer's suit because you can wear your suit outside of work. But
Mhm.
now I think they're going to go on and give a number of examples of when you can
Mhm.
deduct a piece of clothing that is required by your business or
Yeah.
employment.
However, there is a recognized exception to this rule when 1, the clothing is required and essential to the taxpayer's business or employment, 2, the clothing is not suitable for general or personal wear, and 3, is not so worn. So if your business clothes aren't something that you would wear out and about, say, like Walmart or something, though that's probably a bad example because people wear like anything to Walmart, to like CVS or to go visit your mother,
Yeah.
maybe that is
I've been to
deductible.
Walmart, I can verify. I think
There-
even I've worn inappropriate clothing to Walmart.
Therefore, when clothing is useful only in a business environment, a deduction is allowable. For example, custom and usage forbade off duty wearing of nurses' uniforms.
Although maybe our petitioner here might have worn a nurse's uniform in her duties.
Or the uniform of an officer in the California Highway Patrol.
Also, probably work in the entertainment environment too. Think I've seen that video.
Petitioner's line of business, that of a professional dancer, was such that part of her costume was her freakishly large chest. Her implants clearly satisfied the first 2 criteria set forth in Yeomans. As to the third, petitioner has proven that if she could remove her implants on a daily basis, she would have done so as she preferred not to have worn them in her offstage personal life. However, this was physically impossible. So, because Hess's implants were so extraordinarily large, we find they were useful only in her business. Accordingly, we hold that the cost of Hess's implant surgery is depreciable. So, decision will be entered for Hess.
Excellent. So that's that's legal advice, right? Everybody should just go out and get freakishly large implants so that they can then write them off of their taxes.
As long as it doubles your business revenue.
And yeah, and it's only for It's only for those professional purposes. And even then, this is a 1994 case, and there have definitely been new tax laws since then. So if you were really serious about this kind of thing being your business, you would definitely want to speak to your tax lawyer / accountant, and or both maybe, before you try to get this one past the IRS. At the same time, maybe the IRS isn't paying attention to the particular depreciation of any one thing, and maybe it's just the fact that she reported, because we didn't read the section where she reported $51,000 of losses or expenses and $50,000 of income, so she had a negative or a loss as far as her taxes, so she would pay no taxes that year. So that definitely starts to trigger more flags in the IRS system, and those returns that have those kinds of losses, while not illegal, will definitely get reviewed more or scrutinized more than those whose taxes look normal. In other words, people on the ends of the bell curve get scrutinized a lot more than people in the middle of the bell curve.
I understand why she might have more business expenses and losses in that year, because she wouldn't be able to work directly after surgery, and she had to change her stage name. She had to rebrand. So there might be promotional costs that are associated with that. So obviously in later years, she would recoup all of that investment in terms of expenditures.
And then hopefully eventually get them removed or reduced to something more personally appropriate. And then that expenditure, I kind of wonder, she probably can't write off that expenditure as anything other than a medical expense, because that one is for personal once she's done entertaining and goes back to a more socially acceptable size. So do you have any closing thoughts, or is that all we have?
My closing thoughts are, thank you for letting me do this case. It is very much a me case, in that it's this like tiny conflict between two rules and trying to decide where this case lands on. It's this strange intersection between two rules, and in this case, it really clarifies which rule takes precedence. And it only applies in 1% of the cases, or less than 1% of the cases. But I am so happy to know this tiny tidbit of when something is a business expense versus a personal expense. So I'm just really thankful that you let me do it.
I had a really good time, and I hope our viewers had as much fun listening to and watching this video as we had making it. This was a really interesting and fun story. Speaking of, thank you very much for your support. This is the 1st of February that we're shooting this, but the Patreon and sponsors things don't go through until later today. So what we do is we'll still thank the January sponsors, and then the February sponsors will run through from February 2nd through March 1st. So thank you very much to our January sponsors and supporters on patreon.com/ljfrench and sponsors.com/law. In the month of January, our $50 plus supporters were Apernari, John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Kyle Mudrak, Michael Pearce, Jan Negrey, Spirit Bear, Daniel Perez, Snorre Wisotzky, Blackleaf, Joe Tyson, Eevi, Benjamin Hitov, Stephen, Cute Grills in your area, and Ottah. The $5 supporters are scrolling on the screen in front of me and in the description of the videos. We appreciate all of your support. This channel would not be possible if it were not for your financial support. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney, and thank you to Tactical Bra for her idea for this story and her performance today.
Thanks for joining us.
That's our show, everyone. I'll see you in the next one. Love you all. Bye.